One of NASCAR's most iconic tracks is for sale, and an update on Chris Buescher's Kansas penalty as his appeal has been heard. Welcome back to the Breaking Bob channel. Hope y'all are doing well on this Wednesday night. Just got done in the yard and figured I needed to put out a video. We got some breaking news to get into, but as always, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Always talking NASCAR and motorsports on a daily basis. We've got NASCAR in Nashville this weekend. I'll be at the track all weekend, so if you're going to be there, comment down below. Say hi. I would love to chat and talk some racing with you, but excited to be back at the track this weekend. But without further ado, as always, we've got a lot to get into. It just seems like the NASCAR world never stops. Let's talk about NASCAR on Prime first. Everyone's favorite new broadcaster, the shiny new object in the NASCAR world, even if Larry Mack's a little jealous, it sounds like, over there at Fox, trying to compare the two. But regardless of that, seems like it was a hit for almost every single person you talk to, old fans, new fans. As long as you could access it and are giving out that free trial this month, there's no reason you shouldn't be taking advantage of it. It's already in more houses than cable TV if we really do the numbers on Amazon Prime. But regardless of that, I'm here to talk about the ratings that came in today, because it was announced as NASCAR made their debut on Amazon Prime for the Coke 600 this Memorial Day weekend last week on Sunday. 2.7 million, over 2.7 million viewers tuned in to the NASCAR debut on Prime. The streaming giant reports that there was almost 3 million viewers at the peak of the race around 8:30 Eastern time. And the big thing that jumps out to me is how well the broadcast did with a younger demographic. Of course, that 18 to 49 demographic for TV, you may hear it if you're a nerd like me. It's the coveted demographic that everyone wants to get the viewership for. NASCAR did pretty well, averaging 800,000 in that demo. It's the largest since 2022. They did pretty well, over 250,000 viewers in the 18 to 34 demo. But what really jumps out to me is the average age of the broadcast was almost 6 years younger than a cable broadcast for NASCAR. And this is a sport that historically does trend older, so this is really big for NASCAR to maybe trend back a little bit with a new streaming service with Prime. Of course, it's a different option. You definitely see some of the older fans upset they can't access it, but for the most part, I think this is for the best moving forward. With streaming, you're able to have more flexibility, and especially in a sport like NASCAR that you really have rain delays, overtime restarts, red flags. It's so hard to stay in that TV window, and Amazon promoted it with a hour-long post-race coverage, pre-race coverage, and that post-race coverage I just mentioned had over 1 million viewers average out on that. So when NASCAR fans are promised true coverage, they will stay and watch for it. Over 1 million viewers on the post-race coverage just shows that Amazon's going to slowly build from this. Of course, 2.7 million viewers, it's around the average cable race for FS1 USA. But the big thing for me is when the NFL debuted on Amazon a few years ago, it started off slow. The numbers were down. And each year, it's trended up and up and up. I was one of those people who was kind of hesitant. It's on Prime. I don't really want to go onto a streaming service to do it. But Amazon really has put in the money. It's really a write-off for them at this point with how big the company is themselves. They're promoting their actual service in Prime and the shipping service itself. But regardless of that fact, the coverage is fantastic, and I'm just glad to see that the numbers show once again. Let's talk about some actual news, some stuff that doesn't involve TV media. Oh, it's appeal time. Oh, there you go, NASCAR penalties, everyone's favorite time. But no, on a serious note, Chris Buescher's appeal from his 60-point Kansas penalty a few weeks ago was heard today, and all things considered, I think this is a win for the RFK team, as Buescher had that penalty, a 60-point penalty, taken away in half, as his appeal sees him only now with a 30 points penalty. The rest of the penalty does stay the same. The fines, the suspensions for crew chief already served, but playoff points, those are staying. But for Chris Buescher, he gets 30 points reinstated on this, puts him 6 points behind the playoff cut line, 17th right now. All things considered, I think that could be much worse for Chris Buescher and that RFK team. RFK released a statement, quote, "We appreciate the opportunity to present our case to the National Motorsports Appeals Panel today and are pleased that the panel overturned one of the two assessed penalties. Our goal is to always comply fully with the letter of NASCAR rulebook, and our focus is now looking forward to competing for a win in Nashville this weekend." And I think RFK has a good chance of it. Chris Buescher, of course, pretty good on these 1.5 miles, and Ryan Preece, his history at the Truck Series in the NASCAR Nashville race really got him back into the Cup Series, you could argue, with one-off starts a few years back a couple of times. So RFK definitely looking forward to Nashville and getting this points penalty taken away in half for Chris Buescher. Big for them. Again, now 17th, only 6 points back of the playoff cut line, and that playoff cut line, probably going to have a lot of drivers that can point their way in with only 8 winners in 13 races. But all things considered, I think it could be worse for Chris Buescher and RFK. But let's move on now to some breaking news. This is kind of what made me sit down and make this video. With Alex Zeitlow of the Charlotte Observer reporting that Rockingham Speedway is going to be put up for sale. It currently is for sale as we speak. The Rock that recently was just revived by NASCAR. They hosted Xfinity and Trucks there on Easter weekend just a few short weeks ago on Easter weekend. That racetrack is for sale. Now, race fans, don't worry. It's not going to be an Amazon warehouse. Neighborhoods next door aren't shutting it down. It plans to be on the schedule for the Cup. Not the Cup Series. Ooh, almost got you there. The Xfinity and Truck Series. It's on the schedule for 2026 and 2027. That's part of the sweetening of the deal. Is it's got the liquor license. It's part of the gambling license for North Carolina. It's been listed by CBRE Group, and that is confirmed by the seller, Dan Levenheim, who purchased the track back in 2018. Levenheim said, quote, "We've basically taken it in first gear as far as we can go, building it out, getting it ready for bigger and better hands. And the time is right to pass the baton to someone who can take it farther than we can." Now, of course, just 5-6 years ago, there was weeds growing out of the tracks at Rockingham. It was abandoned. It was desolate. And then COVID hit, and I think it was $12 million or so was generated from government funds to renovate that speedway. And, well, the Rock came back, just like North Wilkesboro. COVID kind of brought it back, and we saw Trucks and Xfinity there a couple weeks ago. Again, that is part of the contract on this real estate deal, is that they will be hosting Xfinity and Truck Series races in 2026 and 2027 with an option for Cup Series in the future. And again, hasn't hosted a Cup Series race since, I believe, 2004, I want to say. But it sounds like that there's already a buyer in hand. Now, it's in an open listing period, which means there's no set price, but there will be an owner determined on July the 1st. And all things point to either SMI or NASCAR, Speedway Motorsports or NASCAR, the two conglomerates that pretty much own every single racetrack in the NASCAR calendar and almost every racetrack, it feels like, in the country outside of Roger Penske with Indy. But I know there are some tracks that are independently owned. Of course, COTA has been leased out to the NASCAR schedule for SMI this year in the last couple years, but historically it is SMI or NASCAR controlling the tracks. And Rockingham, of course, being revived just a few short years ago through COVID funds. I'm sure that Dan Levenheim sees the payday from NASCAR and says, "Hey, I've gotten it ready for y'all. I'll take my money, please. Give me that money." I get it. A lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, it's fishy. It's time." I think this is just a guy flipping a track when it's never going to be hotter. And hard to argue that with, again, Cup Series potentially in the future for this track that was once growing weeds just 4, 5, 6 years ago. Dale Jr. was scanning it for iRacing because he was worried it was going to be gone forever. Now we're selling it potentially to NASCAR, SMI, or a buyer that will definitely be renovating it for bigger events in the future. But let me know your thoughts down below about Rockingham for sale. Of course, Chris Buescher and RFK getting their penalty somewhat overturned, or changed at least. And Amazon on Prime, not bad so far. Amazon on Prime, NASCAR on Prime with the ratings, not bad so far. But let me know down below your thoughts. Could we pull together some money here at Breaking Bob, rename it Breaking Bob Rockingham Motor Speedway? I'm just throwing it out there. Get a crowdsourcing. But on a serious note, if you like what you saw, like this video, it does help me out a ton. Subscribe to Breaking Bob for more NASCAR content. I'll see you at the track this weekend at Nashville. Come say hi. We'll see you next time. Stay tuned for more.